Hi, everyone. This is a special edition of Ernie in Seattle's daily broadcast. I'm here to promote a great organization that I've been volunteering for since 2013, and that's the Seattle Asian American Film Festival. It is a nonprofit organization, obviously, and there are no paid staff, believe it or not. There's like about 20 people that are volunteers on the committee, and everyone does everything. For example, everyone gets to, well, they kind of divvy up in terms of all the different films are submitted. Well, people review the shorts, or we'll have people review the feature-length movies, we'll have people review the documentaries, and it's by vote. It's by all the people committee. They look at their particular category and they vote, and that's how we select the films. This year, obviously, is challenging because of COVID. It is not going to be in person. All film festivals last year, since last March, became virtual. So please do check out seattleaaff.org. You see the dates there, March 4th to 14th. It is all online, virtual. They could really use your support. You can buy individual films or just buy a festival pass. It's not that much. The other thing too, which is cool, and I'll promote this in a second, there's going to be a drive-in movie. But unfortunately it's sold out already. But I have my tickets. So if you want to join me, I think I still have room in the car. I'm gonna bring the vodka and the club soda, the lemons and the limes. We're gonna bring some snacks, and we're gonna get some to-go Chinese food in Burien from a classic Chinese American place. So join me. I still have about 3 seats left. So join me. Here are the films we're going to look at today, and let me cut to our little PowerPoint slides. So here is, the first one is The Paper Tigers. It is produced and directed by a local Seattle Asian American filmmaker, a lot of people know him as Bao Tran. It's kind of a cool movie. It's definitely has won a number of awards. As you can see, all the raw heart and roundhouse kicks of Shaw Brothers classic. It's definitely a great movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. So had a great opportunity to talk to Val about this. And again, there is a drive-in screening on Saturday, March the 6th, which is next week. But unfortunately, it is sold out because they can only have so many cars there. But again, I have seats available in my car if you want. So we're gonna get some Chinese food to go. I'll bring the plates and stuff too.
一教授，乜嘢都清楚。What? When the hands cross, all will be revealed. I swear to always honor my sifu, to be loyal to my brothers, and to defend the weak. This I promise as a disciple, to the very day I die.
Can you please teach me Kung Fu?
No.
Teach me Kung Fu. Please.
No. Ho.
Ready? So Bao, how did the idea for the film Paper Tigers come out? Was it your idea? Was it somebody else's idea?
Yeah, I mean, it's based, I guess you could say it's semi-autobiographical, or it's kind of a love letter to Seattle and martial arts, especially growing up here and practicing martial arts under the kind of a diverse community. And obviously, we all know Bruce Lee is our hometown hero, and he when he first came to America, he sat down here in Seattle and set down his digs. Oh. So he taught a lot of students that were of diverse backgrounds, and he got a lot of flack for it. But yet he persisted, and we're all the richer for it. So it's kind of a bit of a like I said, love letter to that history of martial arts that's often overlooked in Seattle. We kind of California gets a lot of attention in the martial arts world, but Seattle is very rich in its history. So it's also kind of a tale of people kind of coming back to the things that they used to love and used to thought was important at one point in their life, and have to re-examine whether it's still important.
Right. So I read an article about the fact that when you were pitching the concept of the film to the traditional Hollywood studios, they told you, hey, wow, we love it, but maybe could we just have one Asian guy? Like, what the fuck? Like, what was your reaction, and what was your? Because I want you to tell me, what did you tell them back? What was your response back to them?
Oh, the same. I mean, yeah, like you're saying, we had shopped the film around with a lot of studios in LA, and there was some interest. They really liked the idea. They let everybody wants to do a kung fu movie, right? So and there was a lot of interest. But our cast is kind of like the Three Musketeers, right? There are three POC. It's two Asian Americans, one Black American ensemble cast, and they wanted basically to support them to produce the film or get involved with the film with the caveat that can you change the cast to white characters ostensibly to make it more bankable, to make it more easy to cast or easy to package in Hollywood lingo. And our response was pretty simple. It was thanks but no thanks, and it was just kind of moving on to find basically the supporters that we need, because it was just knocking down doors, and it was just moving on to the next door. Disappointing, but not surprised. It's kind of like one of those things we knew we were going to kind of get some of that type of requests eventually, so it was just a matter of time. And then and then it came, and then it came and went, and we moved on.
So Bao, how did you find your three actors, the two Asian guys and the African American guys? Number one, how did you find them? And number two, did they have kung fu experience? That was one of my main things that I wanted to know about.
Yeah, well, starting with Ron Yuan, who plays Hing, is definitely has martial arts experience. He has been, in the scene in the game for many, many, many years, in stunts and action and acting. So he's been on the scene for a long time, and he's a good friend of our producer Yuji Okamoto, our local producer and restaurateur and actor, who owns Kona Kitchen and all that. So
yes, Kona. I love Kona.
Yeah, Yuji. Yeah. So, anyways, that's been our our home base for meetings and all that. So that's good. But anyway, so he's known Ron for many, many years. So we kind of reached out to him and see if he was interested and available, and he was, fortunately. And so that was one character. The rest of the characters we were having some trouble with trying to find the right match and also find the right chemistry. It's also just, since it's an ensemble piece, making sure that they all can play with each other.
So Bao, as a lay person, so as a film producer, how in the fuck do you find people?
Yeah, so just getting to that part, it's like what you do is you basically have to start going through casting. So we have a casting director, a person who basically searches high and low through all their databases and through their networks, and finding actors and talent agencies and finding who might be able to fit the description, if you will. So yeah, then that's how we were able to find Elaine and Mikkel through casting. And our casting director Yumi Takada, just kept an eye out and found the right people and kind of put them up for auditions for us. And we found Elaine and Mikkel, and Bob's your uncle at that point. So we just had a really amazing cast, and that basically met each other 3 or 4 weeks before the shoot. They went. I think Ron and Elaine had worked with each other before, but in terms of like, we just threw them into the fire on that one, and had everybody just kind of like act like they're best friends. And thankfully they were. I mean, they really did take a shine to each other behind the scenes, and they were friends, and they were hanging out, they were rehearsing behind, in their off hours. So it was a charm thing to watch, cast, come together like that, because this doesn't always happen like that.
So did you hire Bao, did you hire like a kung fu consultant to like choreograph all the kung fu scenes? Did you do that?
Yeah, well, we have an action director, or an action a team that kind of comes in and kind of designs the action, and basically plots out all those little beats like that. So I've worked with Ken Kitagawa for many, many, many years. It's an old friend, old collaborator. We've worked on many projects. So he's always been, my action director in working out those action scenes. So he was on board, early on. We've been working on this film for 9 years. So we've all talked about this project, wanting to make it.
9 years?
9 year itch. Yeah. We went past the 7 year itch, so now we're just 2 years back into counseling, rehab. But yeah, so 9 years. I mean, it's an up and down thing to try to get a movie made, especially like we were saying, without studio support. And then everything's independent. at that point, and we had the fundraise and we did a Kickstarter and all that things. But yeah, so Ken and his team, Sam Loke and Kerry Wong, all longtime friends and collaborators. So they just came on, just kind of design this action. So it's a little different in like we're really influenced by Hong Kong films and Hong Kong filmmaking, and that style over there is that they actually have like an action unit that directs and does the scenes, whereas here in the US traditionally it's more of like, oh, the choreographer comes in and designs some moves and then the director has to figure out how to do the shot. So it's a little bit more glove in hand, a way to approach the designing of the action, to have a team that's like specifically dedicated to creating that.
So here's a good question. So since this is filmed in Seattle, could you let us know, where did you film? What were the venues? What were the areas? Because everyone's going to want to go, where's that? Where's that? Where's that? So could you let us know, like, where?
Oh yeah. It'd be fun. Well, yeah, we'll have to do a drinking game or something, but hopefully people can buy many tickets to watch the movie over and over and over again to see all the spots of Seattle that we shot. But just to kind of give you the gist, we shot, up in Shoreline, up in Edmonds, I believe, and then we went as south as Burien, and down there, Des Moines, and of course the ID. We were all around the ID for quite a bit of that summer. I think anyone that was there, maybe 2019, summer, probably saw us walking around shooting our scenes. So we were, Dynasty Room.
Were you in any restaurants?
Yeah, so we were at Tai Tung. We shot at Tai Tung. We shot at Dynasty Room.
Tai Tung is amazing.
Yeah. And then we had our base camp and somewhere in Wing Luke, who was super generous. And then we were in Canton Alley, and then we were popping all around. Yeah, we're popping all around kind of that Soto area as well. So I mean, yeah, there's going to be a lot of cool looks. I think what's interesting is, like, for us, we didn't want to do this postcard type of movie to Seattle and try to do, here's the Space Needle, here's Seattle, and just kind of like Pike Place. We wanted to show the scenes that we knew, and the neighborhoods that we lived in and moved around, but not make it a big thing. It's just, you just follow the characters who happen to live here, and here they are, and we just kind of follow that. So it's part of that overall feeling that you have, that it's Seattle, but you can't quite put your finger on it exactly, right? So you're definitely going to see if you know. For those in the know, will know.
So about, obviously you've been around the roadie before, your previous films. So obviously, as for a film, you have to go through the film festival circuit. Obviously, due to COVID, it's been a really challenge. So can you describe because you guys have been nominated for some amazing awards through film festival. Can you describe your experience in the film festival circuit? And has it been grueling? What has you ever experienced? Because everyone wants to know, what do you do when you have to like pitch your film to all these damn film festivals, like over and over and over?
Yeah, well, I mean, the film festival has been, really interesting. I think it's kind of a new for everybody to kind of go virtually or go a more downsized than what they're used to doing. So it's kind of, everyone's in the same boat, and we're all trying our best, and we're all trying to celebrate cinema and celebrate all the other filmmakers' hard work as well, because other filmmakers have worked many years to be able to get there as well. So we're all kind of trying to support each other as much as we can. Virtually, I don't know if it's grueling, but I'm in the same spot. Like, we're just zooming and we're just doing all these Q&As that are virtual and online. I think the biggest bummer, of course, is not being able to see the movie with a crowd and seeing kind of the audience reaction, because that's what we really wanted to hope for. And that's what we really thrive and look for, to entertain the crowd and be able to put on a good show and hopefully take that in. But our day will come. We're going to have a theatrical release later this year, so we'll hopefully be able to have a chance to be all in theaters eventually together. But yeah, with the film festivals, it's just being able to build community as best we can, and so we've had all these virtual happy hours and after parties and stuff like that. So we're all trying. So it's cool, especially among the Asian American filmmakers or film festivals, including staff and whatnot, have all been community based, and we screened our movies there previously, so we all kind of know each other. It's very familiar, so it's kind of good to be able to see each other's faces through the lockdown.
So it's a great. So I read about the fact that you were selected for a special program for the fucking Cannes Film Festival. So
Yeah.
what the fuck was that all about? Oh my god! I actually have been to Cannes. I've been to Cannes before, and it's
Yeah.
I not the film festival, but I've been to Cannes, and it's an amazing place. Oh my god, it's an amazing place. I would go there and retire if I could. So what was that experience like to be nominated for the special program for the Cannes Film Festival?
Yeah, so this was when basically it was an incubator run by the Frontiers out of Fantasia out of Montreal and Cannes. So it's kind of a co-partnership between the two and also the European Film Fund. So it's basically an incubator for genre films. So we were luckily and fortunately accepted into kind of a program of a dozen films to be able to pitch and present the films while we were still fundraising and whatnot to get funds and sales attached and stuff like that. So yeah, they just kind of like followed us. We were in the earlier leg in Amsterdam, and then we were able to present at Cannes as well. So it's like they were able to kind of support our project, from through the many of the gestational stages.
Did they give you some financial support?
Well, I mean, basically, incubator puts you in front of the people that can get you financial support. So we were able to get our sales agents and all that stuff, and basically kind of get good press and attention, because it's also good to kind of say that you're a Cannes and you're meeting people at Cannes and people are aware of your film, and you're kind of like laying the groundwork. The movie's not done, but you're meeting people in the meantime, so that's always good. So yeah, it's cool. I mean, going to Cannes was pretty fun.
I mean, I've been to cons when I worked at Microsoft. I've been to cons like 3 times.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Oh my god, it was like amazing. I would like to retire and just like lay on the beach there.
It's great. Yeah.
So here's a good question. What is your ultimate goal for the Paper Tigers? Do you want to be picked up by one of the streaming? Because obviously there's so many fucking streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, HBO Max, all the stuff. So is that your goal?
Well, we have been picked up. So we have a distributor, Wellgo USA, who's probably most well known for distributing.
Wait.
Yeah.
What was that?
We have a distributor for US and Canada, Wellgo USA, who's the distributor. You might probably most well known for Train to Busan and Hitman series. So all that stuff they've distributed. So we have a theatrical release that is planned for later this year. When we go to the streamers, that's a little bit down the road. But the theater is kind of the big jewel that we're trying to go for. And then we were able to fortunately have that.
Wait, Bao, you gotta talk to the layman people. So nowadays, nowadays no one's going to the fucking theater. No one.
Yeah.
No one. So everyone is sitting at home, Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, Prime Video. That's the distribution. So that's a chance. Why do you want it? There's nobody gonna go to the theaters. Why are you trying to do the theater? What?
Yeah. Well, when the theaters open right now, things are optimistic. Theaters are at a phase that are open. But anyways, to your point, many of the studios are doing both streaming and theatrical. So that's what we're doing. It's not a one or the other thing. It's just trying to plan out the rollout. So it's not like exclusive, but the theatrical does give you kind of another opportunity, because from even last year during the pandemic, a lot of films were able to kind of move to drive-ins, and that's still considered theatrical. So that's not it's not the end of the world.
I know. But you're right.
So,
I mean, it's like HBO Max, because they own Warner Brothers, so they're doing simultaneous releases in the theaters and HBO Max for their films. For example, like the movie with Denzel Washington and Rami Malek, which was amazing. It was a great movie. Can't remember the Simple Things or whatever it's called. It was great. So, okay, let's talk about your background. So,
and the other thing, just to add in, the other thing with theatrical is that you're able to kind of generate a little bit more awareness and press. There's more press coverage for theatrical releases than just streaming. So that's kind of the reality of things.
You know what, Bao, that's a very good point. I did not even think about that. You're right. Theatrical release gets a lot more press and blog, news articles and blah blah blah. So let's talk about your background. So how the hell do you get into filmmaking?
Kicking and screaming. No, well, it's yeah. I mean, I grew up watching Hong Kong movies. Kind of like being inspired by that, and then watching Jackie Chan was really an eye opener, and I really just wanted to figure out what he was doing as a filmmaker. Because for me, when I see his stuff, you can definitely feel a certain tempo and a timing and a rhythm to it that's just really special. So that's how I just wanted to like open up the watch and figure out how the gears were turning. And from that point of view, was just trying to understand filmmaking. So that was inspiring from the beginning, and then just kind of making stuff on your own and imitate by doing and all that.
Have you, Bao, have you any professional filmmaking education, or are you just basically
No.
learning from experience?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a showbiz family. I didn't have, so I mean, I didn't go to film school or anything. So this is pretty much self-taught, and you kind of learn by doing, and a lot of guerrilla filmmaking and whatnot. But, a lot of other, right now with, I was able to go to Vietnam, and I worked in Vietnam for a while as an editor on films out there. So there's just a lot of opportunities that you can just kind of find through your community. Because there's a lot of Asian Americans that are going back to Asia and working in films or whatever industry and for different reasons. So it's just finding your tribe and go to work. So film school was not in the cards for me. It's good for a lot of people. It just wasn't in the cards for me.
Speaking of Vietnam, so I read an article about the fact that you were in Vietnam doing filmmaking, and the Vietnam government fucking banned you. So can you tell us about that?
They didn't ban me. I'm fine.
They didn't ban you.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I was, like I said, I followed a lot of friends who are basically kind of there full time. So I went out there to work on a few films. And one of the films that I worked on as an editor is a movie called Talon, which is like basically translated as Chinatown. It's basically set in the Chinatown area of Saigon. But basically, it's kind of like a gangs of New York. That's probably the best way to describe it. So you have all these kind of warring gangs, and it's a big action movie that's really it's entertaining. It's fun. It's just like a big street gang martial arts mayhem fest. But anyways, so that the thing is in Vietnam is that it's still highly regulated, and it still has a censorship board due to the government. So it wasn't able to pass through the censorship board, unfortunately, for many different reasons. But the stated reason is because it was too violent, or it kind of the portrayal of Vietnam was unrealistic or whatnot. So unfortunately, 2 weeks, I think, before the actual planned release, it was banned. So it was not allowed to screen or exhibit in Vietnam or elsewhere. So that was a bit of a disappointment, to say the least, for all of us, because we were really excited and hopeful to have it out and have people see it. I don't know if you've seen like Raid Redemption.
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay, so Raid Redemption is like a really well-known, famous martial arts action film out of Indonesia. Now, this was about that same time, so we had high hopes that this could be like the Raid Redemption of Vietnam.
Okay, got it. So actually, I had my ex-partner is Vietnamese, and we were together from 2000 to 2010. I was in Vietnam probably about 8 times.
Great.
I love Vietnam. Yeah. I've been throughout the whole country. It's an amazing country. So were you basically in Saigon the whole time that you were there?
Yeah, Saigon's kind of the main filmmaking hub. There's Hanoi, but it's almost like how would you compare it? I don't know, maybe like in China, like Shanghai and Beijing, where like in Hanoi is probably a little bit more art film driven, and then Saigon is a little bit more commercial driven. So
got it. So we love the fact that you spent your time today to be interviewed by me in my podcast, and we're gonna edit that stuff. Thanks a lot, Bao. And I know I met you in previous film festivals in the last few years, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to meet personally. And this film festival is going to be virtual. But as you can see,
we have a drive-in. We have a drive-in.
You know what? I actually am talking to I actually want to interview that filmmaker, and so I'm scheduled to meet that filmmaker. It's going to be in Burien. I want to do that. I'm going to actually want to do that. So.
No, we're the drive-in.
What's that?
We're the drive-in.
You are? Oh, you're kidding, really? And Berrien?
Yeah. So done. You figured it out. You already got it.
Okay. But you know what, Val? I don't have a car, so I'm going to rent a car for that
Oh,
day.
yeah. You
I'm
rent a
gonna rent
car, yeah, just
I'm gonna rent a car for
be
that
in there,
day
yeah.
just to fucking see the film because I want to see the
Or
film.
get a golf cart. It'll be good. Show up
And
on
you
that.
know what? We're gonna bring our own cocktails, and we're
Yeah.
gonna like have our own food. We're gonna have our own food. We're gonna have our own Asian food. I'm gonna go to the Jade Garden, get a to-go order, and they're gonna get a. And that's what I'm gonna do. That's my plan.
Sounds good, man. I'll see you there.
Okay, pal. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Okay. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hula culture in Japan. I had no clue, and Lisette didn't have a clue until she researched it. But there's a huge number of people that take hula lessons. There's a lot of teachers, hula teachers that come from Hawaii and just hang out in Japan because of the huge amount of demand for hula teachers. As you can see, the film has won a number of awards and nominations in various different film festivals.
I went to Japan back in 1988.
You know, I was called the trader of hula because I was in Japan selling my culture.
My remark now would be there's a whole lot of you selling the culture to the Japanese.
Last 10 years, the hula business has been growing in Japan. So many musicians, hula dancers, are now coming to Japan. So we're given the opportunity to see the real hula.
When things go global, more and more control is lost, which is one of the reasons why we really decided to come. So many instances of teachers here have studied for 2 years and they're teaching. There's still a big faction out there that looks at it as a money-making venture.
We thought that if we were here in Japan, maybe we could offer our knowledge of the hula studies that we have. I don't want to have the Japanese accent in our chanting. We're here for the culture first.
Okay, Lisette. So how did the idea for your documentary film, Tokyo Hula, come up? Was it your idea or was it somebody else's idea?
It was my idea. And, you know, I've been working on a trilogy of documentaries about hula and Hawaiian culture. So I actually thought Tokyo Hula would be the second film in the trilogy. But I had been working on a film called Nakamale, the Men of Hula, about men who dance hula, because a lot of people don't know that men dance hula. And Kumu Robert Casimiro, who's a very, very well-known and respected Hawaiian entertainer and Kumu Hula, or master teacher, was the focus of that documentary. And he was going to be going on a tour of Japan in the Pan-Pacific Hula exhibition, as well as my Kumu Patrick Mukuakane, who was in my first film. And they were both going on this, like, I don't know how many different city tour, now that I think about it. It was in 2009, 2010. After I'd finished the second film, I went on this Pan-Pacific Hula exhibition with them to kind of meet different sensei and kumu in Japan and really try to just research and absorb what was going on with hula in Japan there. So really sort of working on the first two films kind of led into developing the idea for Tokyo Hula. It was something that I've been really fascinated with and been hearing a lot about and reading a lot about over the years. But, you know, I just kept seeing the numbers of people in Japan continue to grow. So I was like, okay, I've got to finally raise the budget and go out there and make a film about this. I'm really curious.
So Interesting. You're right. Because when I saw your trailer and I read about your film, I was like shocked. I go, Hula in Japan? I said, that is such weird. I mean, you would have not have thought that, there's this huge hula industry in Japan, which was weird. So how did you educate yourself about that whole culture in Japan? Did you like go and tour Japan and like meet people and meet certain hula organizations and stuff like that? Is that what you did?
Yeah, I mean, well, I did a lot of research, as much as I could, kind of online. And then, here in Hawaii, we definitely have a lot of visitors from Japan. So I was always seeing groups, like really huge groups, that were performing, either like getting up
Wow.
at a bar in Waikiki and dancing, or at the Merry Monarch Hula Festival, which is the largest competition of hula anywhere in the world. That takes place on the Big Island in Hawaii every year. Oftentimes for the Ho'ike night, where it's just like an exhibition night, they'll invite groups from around the world to perform. So I had seen Japanese halau dance. And I remember being very struck, like while I was watching them dance, whether it be here in Honolulu or on the Big Island at Merry Monarch, everything was like technically perfect. Like it looked like so like the angles, everything was just so perfect, but there was something kind of missing and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Like, what is strange about this? I'm really kind of interested in like, how do they learn hula? And as a hula dancer myself, I was just curious, like, what does hula look like someplace else, right? Whether it be Japan or Canada or Mexico or Europe. How is hula being taught? How do you transmit culture through a cultural art form like hula? So from touring with that first tour with the Pan Pacific Hula exhibition, we really went to like so many different cities. We were in Tokyo, Osaka, Hiroshima, Sapporo.
Wow.
I mean, we went like really kind of all over the place. And what struck me was no matter where we went in Japan, there were lots and lots of people involved in hula. So it wasn't, I think in my mind, I kind of thought, oh, well, maybe in Tokyo, there's a lot of hula dancers, but it's not the case. It's everywhere in Japan. So that was definitely eye-opening to kind of get to go to all these different cities and see how just amazingly popular hula was everywhere. Like you could be on a subway in Tokyo and see like an aloha bag or an aloha shirt. And it was just kind of like, wow, this is really trippy.
Now I saw that obviously in your documentary film, there was a couple of hula instructors that were from Hawaii, and they basically were in Japan, like teaching hula. I mean, so there's this whole economy, right? There's this whole economy in Japan. Like for example, there's hula instructors from Hawaii going to Japan, and teaching, and there's all kinds of obviously an industry, right? So you can just describe that whole economy in Japan.
Well, hula has definitely become very big business in Japan. So I think at some point, a lot of the Hawaiian kumu hula kind of were thinking like, gosh, like what is going on? Everyone over there is making all of this money, right? There's a very different system in Japan, like the way the schools are sort of created and established, where you can have one master teacher or one sensei or a kumu hula who then has branches or almost like a franchise, like all over Japan. And they have alakai or teachers underneath them. And then there's teachers underneath those guys. So you can have one teacher that has 5,000 students or 10,000 students. That is not the way hula is taught here in Hawaii. So I think a lot of kumu not only wanted to go to teach in Japan to kind of, obviously it's way more lucrative to teach in Japan than it is here in Hawaii. So in a sense, like by teaching hula in Japan, you can also make sure that you can run your schools here in Hawaii. But they also wanted to go to make sure that, the hula that was being taught was also something that they could be proud of, and that it was being taught in the traditions that was passed down from their kumus and their kumu before them. So it's not just kumu hula. I think that we also, all of our musicians, we have these amazing, beautiful Hawaiian musicians who are also going to Japan all the time. Well, before pandemic times and things like that. there was a lot of back and forth. And the Kumulupaka Igarta de Vera basically is like a dual citizen, right? Where he's going to Japan every couple of weeks to teach. That hasn't been happening during COVID. So he's been having to teach on Zoom to his students and his halau in Japan.
Oh, it's funny. I can imagine teaching hula via Zoom.
Well, I'm actually taking, hula on Zoom right now. So it is very crazy. I don't know. My hat's off to Kumu who are teaching hula via Zoom, but that's what we have to do right now, right?
So Lisette, how long were you in Japan in terms of filming the documentary? I mean, you were there for a month? Were you there for how long?
Well, it always depended on the funding, right?
Okay.
So, I do all of my own grant writing and fundraising. So I would get a grant and then I would go and I would shoot until the money ran out.
Okay.
And then come
Got
back.
it.
And, at the time I lived in New York City for about 20 years. So when I started the film, I was living in New York and would go and shoot for, a month and then come home and try to edit what we had captured. But, I was having a very difficult time fundraising for the project. So it kind of went in fits and spurts whenever a grant would come in. And then I also had other challenges with post-production because I don't speak Japanese. And a lot of the footage that I had gotten with some of the Japanese schools and hula teachers, I needed to rely on translation. So I'd have to hire a translator. And then I was trying to find an editor who could help me work with the footage. So it was a very different process for me. I'd never really kind of worked like that in post. But, I definitely knew that there were times where, that filmmaker instinct still kind of kicks in where you're shooting something and you kind of go, okay, I know this is going to be in the film. I don't know exactly what's going on right now because everyone is speaking Japanese. But I know that something interesting is happening. So
I've seen, based on my research on your film, you have received a lot of awards and, nominations at various different film festivals. Obviously, as a filmmaker, I know the film festival circuit is the thing. That's how you get your film, promoted. That's how you get your film noticed. You get all those little accolades and all those nominations, audience awards and all that stuff. So I know during COVID, it's been probably a little more easier for you because you're not like traveling like to all these film festivals. So how has the film festival circuit been for you in terms of experience in all these different film festivals?
I was just talking to someone the other day and I just am grateful that I got the premiere in Hawaii in person. It was like November 2019.
Oh God. Okay. Before everything happened.
Before everything happened, I got this really amazing, I worked on this film for 10 years.
Wow.
So,
know what? Everyone's because I'm doing a documentary and everyone says, Ernie, this is gonna take 10 years.
Yeah, it takes a really long time. And this one took the longest out of all of my films. This is my fourth film and it took the longest, but I was just so excited to share it with an audience finally, right? And to share it here in Hawaii was just amazing. So that was awesome. And I have to say though, one thing that I'm a little disappointed by is that I haven't been able to take it to Japan. It did premiere at the Yamagata International Documentary Film Festival in the fall of 2019, but there was that huge typhoon that hit Japan the same weekend. So I had a ticket, but I couldn't go.
Oh no! Oh my God! So you actually had a ticket? Oh my goodness!
I had a ticket, and there was this massive typhoon, and couldn't make it. I had to Skype in for the Q&A, and then the pandemic hit. So I've never been able to kind of take it and screen in Japan, which is like one of the things on my list when the pandemic is,
So now, before the pandemic, when you actually physically went, how was that? Did you find it grueling or was it exhilarating because the fact that you saw your film, you saw live people watching it, and didn't that give you like a really good feeling?
Absolutely. The screenings here in Hawaii were just, I had lays up to my eyes. It was like high school graduation time. Like I could not see. It just was so lovely. It was just an amazing experience. And to be able to kind of engage with the live audience after they've watched it and answer questions, it's always just really kind of like, that's part of the reason why filmmakers love this whole process. It's not necessarily the awards and things like that. It's more to kind of, share your work. And, my whole hope with this film was to kind of create a dialogue, especially for folks here in Hawaii. Like we should be talking about like, what are the implications of hula going global? It's an interesting conversation that we should be having. And it's not to point fingers, and money is definitely a part of it, but more importantly, like what do we want Hula to be, if it is going around the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, because Hula is
but
such a critical part of the Hawaiian culture, right? It's something that you can share with everyone around the world, which is amazing. And I
No,
remember,
absolutely.
oh
And
God, I remember there was a film. Oh geez, I can't remember. You may have, let's say you may have seen this film. Sorry, you may have seen this film. It was of, oh God, I can't remember, but it was featured in both the Seattle Queer Film Festival and the Seattle Asian American Festival like 2 years ago. It was this a transgender hula teacher in Hawaii. And-
Kumuhina.
yes, it was an amazing film. I cried. It was a really,
I
really.
love that film.
Do you
And
know her?
some of my
Do you know her?
very dear friends made that film. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
do you know her?
Actually,
Good.
we were in there's a festival in Tahiti called FIFO,
Yeah.
which screens international documentaries from Oceania. And they were at FIFO with Kumuhina when I was there, with, I think, Nakamale the Men of Hula. I can't even remember which film.
Yeah.
Maybe One Voice. My brain is mush. But yeah, they actually have this very exciting short animated film that you have to watch called Kapai Mahu. And that film is on the short list for the Oscars, and we're all super excited for them because, yeah, it's a film from Hawaii that is shortlisted, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful animation, and it tells a really important story. So you got to check it out for sure, Ernie.
Yeah,
I'll send you the link.
That was a real, yeah, send me the link. That was a really good film. I cried, and I love the fact that she had all these macho teenagers. I remember that, right? And then she came out transgender, and they said, you know what? She's she is fierce. I mean, I love when the teenagers basically came to protect her and stood up for her and said, oh my God, she's amazing. It made me feel so good that, she was able to cultivate these teenage boys, like a macho teenage boys. And they were very, very respectful, and they really respected what she did and what she accomplished. And that was really impactful. So here's a good question. I know I'm sure you get this question all the time. So, Lisette, what's your ultimate goal for Tokyo Hula? Do you want, obviously, there's all these streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, HBO Max. Do you want to actually give rights to one of these streaming services? Is that your goal?
I have a very simple answer for this question. And, all of my work is really created for PBS because I really like to create films that are going to be shared for free with, all of anywhere in the United States. So all of my films have been, on PBS. And this film is going to be coming to a PBS station near you, hopefully, and everyone in May on the Pacific Islanders and Communications Pacific Heartbeat series. So I'm really excited about that. So and they're actually
go ahead.
They're going to be screening Tokyo Hula along with the first two films in the Hula trilogy. So American Aloha Hula Beyond Hawaii, Nakamale the Men of Hula, and then Tokyo Hula. So I'm really excited that all three of them are actually going to be playing on PBS all at the same time.
Well, you're going to have to host a viewing party at your home. I'll fly out there for that. That's great. I'm looking forward to seeing it here at the Seattle Asian American Film Festival. In fact, I've been a volunteer for the Seattle Asian American Film Festival since like 2013.
Wow.
So I've been doing sponsors. So I've been the person asking for money. So like I asked like Amazon for money or Alaska Airlines for money, et cetera. So obviously this past year has been a little bit challenged, but believe it or not, we've done very well in terms of sponsorships. Obviously it's virtual. It's virtual this year. It's virtual. So have they? I don't know. Have they asked you to do any Q&A on this movie for the screening or no?
I did it already. Oh my God, I had to think. Sometimes there's so many festivals.
Did they go ahead and just record it?
Yes, yeah. I did the interview, and I love this festival, and there's so much support over the years for all of my work from all of these terrific, Asian American and Asian Pacific film festivals on the continent. So I'm really excited to be able to share it in Seattle.
I'm glad that they did the Q&A with you. What I did was, in fact, Vanessa Alsey, Vanessa and Victoria, they're the co-festival directors, and I said, I'm gonna do this on my own. Okay, I don't need to involve you guys because they're like busy because they're trying to do a virtual festival for the first time, right? So can you imagine? They're like pulling their hair out because it's a little challenging, right, to do virtual the whole thing.
I mean, I went from starting the film festival run, like, in person, and then everyone had to pivot. So there were all these festivals that the film had gotten into, and I was literally watching in real time as film festivals had to learn how to create a virtual film festival, like just out of thin air, So I really have so much respect because I know it's so much work.
I have an interesting question. So there was a couple of weeks ago, at the Sundance Film Festival, there was a virtual API filmmakers reception. Did you happen to attend that?
I didn't. I mean, there's so many virtual things going on.
But did you hear about it, right? Did you hear about it?
Yes.
It was, you know what, Lisette, it was really cool. They had this virtual, they had like 3 floors, and every floor had a table, and every table had like 6 participants. So you can join the table and just chat for like 5 minutes, and then you go, okay, we've met, so I'm going to go to another table, and then you go to another table.
So you actually felt like you were at a party.
Yeah, it was funny. Like, you went from one table and go, okay, I met you all, I know what you do, so I'm going to go to another table. So you can go on a table, and then you can go from all these tables on the first floor, oh, am I going to go to the second floor? And then you met people on the second floor, and the people were from all over the US, filmmakers from all over. It was amazing. I thought, they said that they want to try to do that at probably like upcoming, Asian film festivals. They want to kind of do that every one. Yes, again, because the fact that we're all virtual, you can join from Hawaii, for example. You can
right.
join from Hawaii.
I mean, that's been the bonus, right, of everything going virtual, is you can be anywhere in the world and still participate in these types of events. I think I do miss, the personal connections. Like, one of the great things about film festivals is meeting other filmmakers and going to those, karaoke nights at the end and kind of just being able to relax and network.
Yeah, it was funny. In fact, I even met someone. In fact, I have her information. She's with like the Asian International Film Festival Organization, and she actually has funding for filmmakers. So I go, oh, okay, I'm going to save your information. It's like,
right.
So she gives out grants, and so one of my and I'll probably contact you in the future. But my project is I'm going to do a documentary on Seattle's LGBTQ history. So what I'm doing now, and you can tell me whether or not this is a good idea or not. So what I'm doing now, I'm just interviewing people. So I'm doing interviews. I want to do like at least 50 interviews with people. People in the community, just regular people in the community, people that are pretty prominent in the community. Like our former mayor, who was gay, I've interviewed him. I've interviewed this business person, Louise Chernin. She was amazing in the community. And I just got a sense of what it was like to being gay here in the 70s and 80s and 90s, right? And so what I'm doing is I'm getting all these interviews together. And then once I believe I have enough interviews, I'm going to basically look through them all, and then create in the documentary world, I don't know if it's called a screenplay or not, but whatever, a kind of a screenplay of what my documentary looks like. Because I got to know.
Treatment.
Yeah, I have to know all these stories, and I want to kind of pick these stories out, right? What stories kind of help tell the history of Seattle's LGBT community. So I want to get all these stories from everybody, right, kind of paste together, what my story will be, what my storyline will be. So I know it's going to be 10 years. 10 years.
Well, I think what you're doing is really important. First of all, you're recording oral histories, and that's a massive, plus in itself. And, when you're ready to kind of sit down and write the treatment, remember that, your interviews are going to be a small piece of the film, right? So, what do you want to visually kind of capture to tell that story up on screen, right? And, I think sometimes, maybe because projects do take so long, you could think about how you could maybe do something online you know, to create like maybe like a new media, like you could take what you've recorded and maybe sort of create like a website so people could kind of get interested in the project. And
Okay, kind of a little tease,
and
like a
just
little teaser, like
a
okay,
teaser.
got it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, maybe it would inspire like other people in other cities to do something similar, right? So, I mean, there's so many different ways that you can kind of approach
I like that
developing
idea. I like that idea of going online and trying to get people to get involved in the project, right? And they can also contribute to the project. So here's a good question, and I'm sure you get it all the time. So how did you get into filmmaking? What was your impetus? What created this like, oh, I gotta make documentaries?
Well, you know, I kind of going back, like when I was younger, I really loved the arts and I wanted to go into the arts. And when I said that, my dad just heard, I'm sorry, did you just say you want to be poor? So it was very, very difficult to sort of, in the beginning, when I was super young, to kind of convince my folks that I wasn't going to be a lawyer or a doctor or something. They always kind of would say, well, you're the smart one, right? So we're saving up for your college, and please, like, choose something that will give you a career. But I got very, very lucky. And there's actually, I got to be an extra in a film, and it was like kind of as I was finishing high school and starting to apply to colleges. And I was thinking I wanted to study theater at the time. And my dad again was just like, oh God, no. And when this film kind of blew through town, I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Look at all these people on set. This is kind of like theater. This would be really something that kind of interests me. And I sort of was able to talk my dad into sending me to film school, which was, you know, lucky, I think, in a lot of ways. But I went to NYU undergrad at Tisch School of the Arts and just loved it. And regrettably,
you went to one of the top ones, so you know, congratulations, you did go.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but I didn't take any documentary film classes when I was in school. I thought documentaries were really boring at the time. I was just 18 years old and didn't know a lot. But I did fall in love with film and filmmaking. And it was really kind of after being out of school and working in, you know, the independent, no budget, low budget film scene in New York that I was like, this really is not my bag. I really kind of want to find something where I'm working on stories that I really care about. And that's where documentary kind of opened up a whole other world for me as a storyteller and as a filmmaker. And I kind of really made it, I was sort of thinking about maybe leaving film altogether. I'd kind of gotten a little disillusioned with, you know, working on all types of projects where I just wasn't like emotionally invested. And so I went back to graduate school. And at the same time, when I went back to graduate school and was studying writing, I kind of, you know, I didn't like being on set with millions and millions of people, which is something else I really like about documentaries. It's much more intimate and there's smaller crews and you're really kind of, you're talking to real people and it's their real life, right? So at that time, I decided to start a production company. And the other filmmaker that I started a company with was a dance filmmaker. And I was like, oh, wow, I know nothing about dance. What are we going to do? What kind of a project could we work on together? And that was really, you know, how I really accidentally sort of fell into documentary at just the right time. Because I at that point in my life, I was really thinking like, do I want to stay in film or do I want to, you know, maybe pursue a writing career? And documentary sort of had everything that I love about filmmaking and storytelling, and kind of kept me invested. And that's really kind of where I started making docs. But it was, you know, a few years out of film school. Before that, it was just all narratives, shorts and features. So
do you do this full time or do you have another day job?
Oh, I have a day job, of course.
Okay, what is your day job?
Or a documentary filmmaker.
What is your day job?
I'm a professor at the University of Hawaii.
UW, University of Hawaii. God.
Yeah, I teach.
I assume you teach film.
Yes, we have the Academy for Creative Media, which is our film program here at the University of Hawaii. And it is fun, I have to tell you. I mean, my students make me a bit crazy, but I absolutely love teaching film, and they're working on really exciting projects. And it's just a really exciting time to be watching all of these great emerging storytellers kind of come out of Hawaii and make their mark.
Do you, for example, in your courses, obviously, do you have the students make a film?
Oh yeah,
Got it.
absolutely.
Do they work in teams or by themselves?
It depends. Some of the projects are individual, some of them are group. Right now, we've got all kinds of COVID guidelines and things to keep everyone safe. And I've been teaching production in like a hybrid fashion. So sometimes we meet in person, most of it's online. But yeah, they're still out there shooting films. And we're still having our own, ACM student film showcase online. So yeah, everyone's just kind of, they're still moving forward with their creative work. I think at first it was really hard. Like, how do we be creative in a time like this? I think a lot of folks, not just students, but also filmmakers, kind of had to figure out that balance, right? Because it is a different time for sure.
It's funny because I went through a mini film school. There was this really good guy here, Brody Willis. He has his own production company, Black and Fork Films. He's a gay Asian American. He's Filipino. And about 4 years ago, he decided he wanted to get back to the community. So what he did was, for the last 4 years, he's done a film school for people of color and or LGBT. So I checked 2 boxes, right? So it was last year. It was January through June. So it was 6 months. Monday and Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Wow.
So, yes, it was free though. I mean, you had to apply for it, but once you got in, so I was like one of the oldest people. Everyone else, myself and a good friend of mine, who's also around my age, 60, and then everybody else was like 20 something.
Right.
We were like we were the old senior citizen. It was hilarious. We were like the 2 old senior citizens, and we had all these 20 somethings. And it was great because the first 2 months before the pandemic happened, we did everything live, right? So he has all these cameras, so we understood all these different cameras. We did lighting, we did sounds, we did all the physical things you need to understand about film. And then the pandemic hit, and then all of a sudden we were on Zoom, which I hated.
Right.
God, I hate that. I mean, the pleasure of the film school went down tremendously when we went to Zoom. But we did, for example, things that made sense for online. For example, he brought in some professionals. So someone gave us, for example, screenplay 101, 102. We did directing 101, 102. We did producer 101, 102. So we did those kind of aspects of the film school. So it was fun. I mean, so I did a mini version of what you went through, your professional version at NYU. It wasn't close to that, but at least I got my education. But I do agree with you that I believe, and that's why I'm focused on documentaries. When I've been to film festivals over my last 27 years, what impacts me and what stays with me is the documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ones that I remember because it has a message and it tells a story. It's like the transgender hula instructor. I still remember that one. I still remember that one 2 years ago. It was like, because it meant a lot. It was a good story, and like I'm looking forward to seeing your film, Tokyo Hula, and because it will make an impression. Documentaries make an impression, and that's why you said 3 documentaries.
This is the 3rd, and then there's a 4th film that I did called One Voice about the Kamehameha School Song Contest here in Hawaii.
So did you say, Lisette, that in PBS in May, will they do your 3 documentaries? Is that what they're going to do?
Yes, yeah. So they'll show the entire Hula trilogy on the Pacific Heartbeat series, which is the Pacific Islanders and Communications series on PBS on the World Channel.
Excellent. I'm going to write that down. Heartbeat.
I'll let you know, Ernie. I'll let you know.
Yes, sure. Add me to your email. I want your updates every time. Well, sure. So I really appreciate your time today. I know I wish I was in Hawaii. Is the weather like nice and 80 degrees today?
Yes. I mean, it's pretty much always nice and 80 degrees. My uncle always says, if you don't like the weather, just wait 10 minutes. So
I know we went, when we were there, we went up to North Shore, near the Polo Club. There's like a gay nude beach up there. I wasn't nude. Okay, I'm not new, but my friend and partner was. We hung out there for a while. It was a cool beach. It was a cool beach. You had to kind of walk. You had to park in the road. You had to walk down to the beach, which was kind of fun. And then we did a nice hike. Oh God, it was east of Honolulu towards Sea Life Park. It was a very easy hike. It was paved. It was a paved walkway.
Oh, you did Makapu'u Point.
Yes.
Yeah.
The lighthouse.
Yes.
Yes. That was an easy hike. Okay, because it was paved. It was paved.
I love that hike.
It's a nice hike. It's a really nice hike. You know, it was just enough. You know, when you're on vacation, you don't want to work too hard. And we went to you know where the Bahamas, right? What was that town where their Bahamas?
Kailua.
Yes, we went to the Kailua beach, and then we went to where the Obamas go to get their shaved ice. We went to Island Snow.
Oh, nice.
And they have their pictures of the Obamas on the wall.
Of course they do. Of course
oh my
they
God,
do.
we're here where the Obamas were. We love that. You know, we love that. Yeah, so we really appreciate it. I mean, I have actually I bought this. There's this weird website online, like on Facebook, that they sell like cheap hotels.
Oh.
That's how I went here because, for example, I was able to get the Queen Kapalahani for like $70 a night.
Oh wow.
Yes. I think it's regular is like $150 a night. This company goes to all these hotels and said, you know what, no one's staying right now for your pandemic. So let me give you a deal. Give me a bunch of boat nights. I'll sell it to you. I'll give you revenue. And so what it is, it was like $70 a night for 5 nights, and you have 24 months to use it. Right?
Oh,
Isn't that great?
Smart.
So basically, I bought another package for Hawaii. So I have 7 nights for like $70 a night in Hawaii. I have 24 months to use it. So I know I'm going to go there. And so next time I go, I'm going to email you and we'll hang out. We'll have a cocktail.
Please do.
No, I want to invite you out.
Yes, absolutely.
To Hula's. You have meet me at Hula's for a cocktail. It's on me, and we'll listen to Johnny the Third, which is kind of a cool guy. So we'll do that. So I really appreciate your time.
I love Hula's.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much for everything. I'm looking forward to your show.
Thank you so much, Ernie. It was really nice talking to you.
This is, I love documentaries because documentaries, I believe, tell great stories. So Christina Antonakos-Wallace produced this film about prejudice. She focused on Berlin and New York City. And you can hear how she found the people that were featured in her documentary about From Here. Again, her film has won a number of different awards at various different film festivals as well. So I'm really looking forward to the screening of From Here.
I got my first hate mail. And it was addressed to me, personally. It says, go the fuck back from where you came from. Drop dead, bitch. That's it.
Ich bekomme immer eingeimpft. Wo ist mein Wurzelhaar? Muss mich halt hier mutieren, um klarzukommen.
Da draußen bin ich nicht erwünscht, man beschimpft mich, man bespuckt mich. Aber ist mir scheißegal, weil hier drin, da bin ich da ein Teil davon. Und dieses Gefühl soll mein Sohn aufnehmen.
This country has never really seen a dude with a turban in popular culture.
I've had to hide for so long, but I have to let it out. I can't take it anymore. I can't live like this anymore, and I exist.
My name is Tanya Matos, and I'm undocumented, unafraid, and unapologetic. This is what democracy looks like! No one deserves to go through this.
And if you've ever been teased, harassed, threatened,
what it means to belong.
Okay, we're gonna start here because I'm editing, obviously.
Yeah.
I want to welcome Christina oh God, I have to pronounce your name right.
You got this.
Christina
Antonakos-Wallace.
Antonakos-Wallace, who is the a director, a producer of the film From Here, which is obviously very, very relevant to our times today. And it's really, when I looked at all the films at the Seattle Asian American Film Festival, this one really resonated with me because it was a documentary, and it was it was very relevant to our current state in our society right now. So how did you come up with the idea for the documentary? Was it your idea? Was it somebody else's?
Well, it was definitely my idea. I can't blame anyone else on signing me up for that project. Yeah, it was mine. But the journey to kind of, so the film is following 4 artists and activists who are in New York and Berlin, who are all from immigrant families. Some who immigrated themselves as children, some who were born but have sort of different relationships to citizenship because the legal systems in each country. And it's really how young people who are at the kind of crosshairs of these immigration debates are pushing the boundaries of belonging. And it's a little bit of an abstract approach to these questions compared to maybe what you typically see, because each of the 4 protagonists on their own have very kind of concrete material stories. One is undocumented, and that's kind of a story we know. One is, a turban wearing Sikh who experiences sort of Islamophobic harassment. That's sort of a story we know. But like putting these stories together and trying to figure out what are the kind of common themes and issues, and how do we build solidarity, and how do we really push our imagination around what's possible. That felt like it took a lot of life experiences coming together to be interested in that kind of approach. And some of it was very personal and some of it was political, just what I felt like was needed, but also what I was questioning myself in my own life. So, yeah.
So a good question. So how did you find these 4 people?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a process to find these characters, in part because I don't know, just my approach was
basically go through
more like
media?
an organizer. Excuse me.
No,
did
you go to social media?
No, I started the film in 2007. I started shooting in 2007. So I wasn't even on social media at that point. I really only got on social media in order to support the filmmaking process sort of later in the journey. But no, it was really sort of in Berlin, it was very systematic because I'm not German and I don't have a lot of relationships in Germany. When I got there, I was really just sort of like a sponge soaking it all in. And I found collaborators who lived in Berlin, and we just literally contacted, 20 or 30 community organizations.
Got it. Oh, okay.
And said, do you have community members who you think would be interested to tell their stories, or who would be good people on, to talk about these issues in some kind of way? And they gave us a bunch of phone numbers, about 60 phone numbers. We made all these phone calls.
Okay.
From that, we
interviewed.
We interviewed 25 of them. We spent about a month just interviewing people every day. And from that, there's 2 people who ended up in the film.
Excellent. So how did you find your New York people?
It was much more organic because I lived in New York, and New York was a place that, these are my peers really. So I was able to, Sonny was somebody that I was already friends with, not close friends with, but he was in my social network. And then Tanya, I did some kind of combination of putting out the word, but Tanya, I actually saw speak at an event, and I just went and approached her afterwards. And I said, oh my God, you're so powerful. Would you be interested to tell, your story on camera? And she just spoke of really being borderless. And it was a way of speaking about her identity that I hadn't heard that many people kind of using their platform to speak like that. And she said yes. I think she was immediately attracted to a project because at that time she was very active in the organizing work around the DREAM Act, and they were getting a lot of people approaching them to tell stories about the DREAM Act. but to have a film that looked at sort of questions of migration and belonging and identity in a bigger way wasn't something that was really coming to them. And so she was really open to it. So I was very lucky. I was really lucky she was open.
So Christina, like how from okay, I'm going to ask you from a because I'm very curious because I'm a budding filmmaker. But how long did it take you from the concept of the documentary, finding the 4 people to the end of the film? How long was that?
A long time. A long time.
4 years, 5 years, 6 years?
Oh yeah, I mean the shooting period alone was 12 years.
Wow.
So,
okay.
But the concept came to me about 2 years before that I started shooting.
Yeah.
So 2005, I kind of had this idea, and I started researching and interviewing friends. And those interviews are really rough. They're really hard to watch. But the questions that I was asking were really the questions that were the starting point for the film. And it was this question of how do we relate to our traditions and our own liberation? How do we push for, a more just society? And at the same time, kind of grapple with the oppressive traditions that many of us are carrying with us from our own communities. How do we do both of those things at the same time? And what does that all have to do with these larger global questions of migration? So that was what kind of I was struggling with myself as a young person. And then, I started the film sort of at the same time, in my 20s, when my protagonists were all in their 20s, and we all ended the film when we were mutually in our 30s. So we kind of all went through a decade together, and they grew and I grew. And
yeah, I mean, everyone that tells me, because I'm embarking on a documentary on Seattle's LGBTQ history.
Yeah.
And all my mentors say Ernie's going to take 10 to 12 to 14 years. I go, oh,
yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if this is for this interview or just a personal commentary, but I think I started out thinking this was going to take me 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. I also have the same concept. I said 3 to 5 years, but all the people that have done films and documentaries say, oh, no. It's going to take a long time, much longer than 5 years.
Yeah, I don't think audiences kind of realize the amount of work that goes into these projects, what it takes to get these things off the ground and completed. But I do think that the films where directors take the time and don't rush through, those are the stories that end up being incredibly rich. So we're lucky for all the filmmakers who are willing to put in a decade into a project, because it shows at the end, even if it's pretty brutal on the on the film team.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a very difficult question.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like asking you to pick a favorite child. So of the 4 stories, which one made the biggest impact to you personally?
Which one made the biggest impact on me personally?
Yeah, like which story?
Am I allowed to say? Am I allowed to speak about all of them? I know
that's fine.
No, that's fine. I mean, really, I feel so blessed that the 4 people who are in the film, Tanya, Sunny, Miman, and Akim, chose to, allow me to tell their stories. And I think I learned a tremendous amount from each one of them. And I don't know, people might see this before or after seeing the film. So for people who haven't seen the film, I should assume that, one of the characters in the film is named Miman. Mm-hmm. His story is one of he's born in Germany, but doesn't have German citizenship. And he's a social worker who works advocating for his community, which is the Roma community, which is the largest minority group in Europe.
Wow.
Often referred to as gypsies, but that's a derogatory word that really has roots in slavery. And just a lot of historical trauma that plays out in real life for people, including for Miman. And to really just accompany him through some years that were pretty tough in his life, I learned not just a ton about his community, but also mental health, resilience, trauma. But I think what's really exciting about all of that is that right now we are working together, Miman and I and some other people from the team, to really put together a campaign around challenging
Wow.
German citizenship laws.
Wow, that's
And so
amazing.
through the process of making the film, Miman kind of moved from being really kind of just being moved to act in a different way on another level, and to be able to be part of somebody's journey that way, to allow them to accompany you, but also to then also be able to support and inspire them through seeing their story on a big screen. You couldn't ask for more, I think, as a filmmaker, than to know that your film also supported the people in it, to not just to be well themselves, but also to make change in the world, which is, it's just this interesting cycle that if you work in a way, whatever you're doing, but I say as a filmmaker, where you're really collaborating with your protagonist and you're really like keeping their best interest in mind at all times, then it doesn't have to be an extractive process. It can also be a real collaborative process and a supportive, like empowering process for everyone. So I think that's a story that.
Yeah, it's kind of great to hear that you're still engaged with the four people that you're engaged with, right? I love that. I love that. So you're advocating for, immigrant rights in Germany. Here's a good question for you. Obviously, given the Trump years, which has given license encouragement for white supremacist groups and increasing hate crimes, especially against Asian Americans, with Trump calling, COVID-19 the China virus. Did that have any impact to your documentary? Were you able to deal with that in your documentary at all?
Well, the film was set to premiere the week that the lockdown started. So COVID wasn't part of the story, right? The film was complete before COVID happened. But what I hope the film does is it really draws connections between the white supremacy that kind of underlines all of these various expressions of racism that often don't necessarily get seen or named. And one of them being how we do immigration in this country, who has access to citizenship. And I think the Chinese community obviously is a very case in point, because the first really exclusionary laws around citizenship and race were targeted at Chinese people. And I do think it's interesting how sort of anti-Asian racism doesn't get talked about and is often invisibilized. And so I hope that by having a film that includes people of, many backgrounds, including two people of Asian descent, one Asian German and one Asian American, we can talk about these issues in relationship to each other. It's not that like what the Latinx community is experiencing and the Black community is experiencing and the Asian community experiencing don't have anything to do with each other. They're all related. And this kind of colonial racial capitalist system that we're living in is very much wound up in how we are, manifesting our current immigration system, but also who's considered American, who's considered German, who's the first target when we need an other. So yeah, that's what I hope that there can just be more solidarity built, that the focus on, the specific expressions of racism doesn't lead us away from seeing how interconnected they all are. And that racialization in general is a theme. It's not just one community that is being the target. The target is often moving. So that's how I would sort of answer that.
Yeah. So Christina, so obviously as a filmmaker, you ever, I looked it up, you have received a lot of awards, at many film festivals. So can you let us know how obviously in the period of COVID, you're not going physically to the film festivals, they're all virtual. So how has that experience been during the virtual film festival circuit versus the live film festival circuit?
Well, it's very surreal. I think, I don't want to sugarcoat it. I think what every, artist is hoping for is to have audiences engage with their work. And right now I'm sitting at home and I'm like, okay, I think some people might be pressing play on their computer sometime in this 2-week period. And I'll find out because I'll see some metrics on social media that there are a few more people following us, or, I got some emails. But what really makes it meaningful is when people do reach out and send you a message or let you know that something moved them. Because in a typical world, festivals are this really special place where people connect in person and you get to, mingle with people who are other filmmakers and film enthusiasts, and it's powerful. And we're really not able to do that in the same way. So I'm grateful that we have the chance to have the film being seen despite the limitations, but I'm very much looking forward to the chance to go back and really be part of festivals. And I encourage everyone who is maybe the first time at a festival because they're able to do it online and has never gone in person, go in person, because you get to meet filmmakers, you get to meet the protagonists, you get to meet other people who really love these kinds of films. And that's not something that you can do just watching Netflix. It's really special.
Yeah, one of the things, Christina, because I've been to film festival, oh my God. I've been to the Asian Film Festival for like 7 years, been to the Seattle Gay Festival for like 20 years. And I just love going there because I meet the filmmakers, talk to them like I talk to you about, what inspired them to create the film, the background of what happened in the film. And it's great. And then we do things like we have like great parties after the film,
right?
Karaoke after the films. It is a fun thing. So I'm really looking forward. So hopefully at the end of 2021, after the fall season, 2022, be able to get back to live film festival, experiences. So here, obviously, this is a very typical question. This is not a surprise question. I sent you the questions ahead of time. So how did you get into filmmaking?
I got into filmmaking because I was really looking to integrate sort of two different domains of my life. I was in my early 20s, and I was both an activist and had been an activist since my teenage years. And I was studying art, visual art, and I did a lot of photography and video. And I just realized I wanted to be able to engage more directly with the social issues that I was working on in the community. And I think for me, filmmaking just offered a lot. I mean, as a creative medium, there's so many dimensions to it in terms of getting to work with sound and music and color and composition and storytelling. It's a very rich medium, but also the idea that it's a medium that is meant to be watched collectively, that is very accessible for somebody who had the kind of political commitments that I do. It felt really powerful to be able to work in a medium that's more available to wider audiences than, say, the visual arts field, which is often kind of an exclusive space. So that's kind of how I came into filmmaking. I really didn't know what I was getting into, to be honest. It was really kind of like, I like photography. I always have, but what if I started, but what did I know? I mean, I had to teach myself how to actually make films. It's not that I didn't take any classes, but you can't learn how to make a film in a class. It's very, very complex work. And I think that, we all can be lucky that we're naive when we start things out, because if we knew what we were getting into, we often wouldn't do the things that we do. But it's a craft that requires a lot of commitment. So that's how I got in.
So here's a good question. So what is your next project?
Well, I'm a little nervous to talk about it because
you don't have to, if you don't want to expose it, that's okay.
But the short version of this story is I'm developing a project called Amazonia, which is about Amazon's takeover of Seattle.
Oh my God. I think that's amazing. Oh my God. I think that is amazing. Because that is a huge issue. That's a huge issue in Seattle.
Yeah, so for all the Seattleites, that will probably resonate a lot. But I think even if you don't live in Seattle, you feel like how Amazon has taken over the economy, has pushed out so many small businesses.
Of course. I mean, I don't know about you, Christina. Like I click, and literally every day I order, shit from Amazon. And here's a good example. So I normally ordered cat food from petco.com, right? Or another website, right? And actually I have a friend that works on Amazon, and he's in a group that does pricing. So you know what he says? He goes, they make sure that their prices are equal or less than their competition.
Right.
And so one day I clicked on the cat food, and all of a sudden on my website, I have this little thing called Amazon Assistant. I go, you know what? Hey, order on Amazon. It's cheaper than that Petco. I go,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And I get, guess what? And I get free delivery in 2 days.
Right.
So that it is such a monopoly. I mean, literally, and I know it's bad, but I fall into the Amazon easy ordering because
Right.
it's easy. I click and I get it 2 days for free.
Well, the fact that they've made billions of dollars during this pandemic, I think, is evidence that you're not the only one who falls into the
Yes.
easy to click. They've made it extremely easy, and I think, yeah. So I'm looking into that, and I'm still figuring out the various. There's so many angles to take on that. There's so many dimensions to the story. So
Well,
part of it is just actually how
you're right, Christina. It's the overall retail market because basically they are attacking every retail market. Like I was just telling you, pet food.
Right.
Pet food. They're gonna take over the pet food market.
Right.
So they're gonna basically eliminate like Petco and all these other pet food companies, and stuff. And it is, I don't
gonna
think
try
it's,
anyway.
yeah, well, I don't think it's good from a competition point of view because they're literally going to eliminate the competition, which I don't like. That's not good.
Right.
That's not good. I don't like that.
Right.
So guess
and
what?
it's changed our city quite a bit, hasn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, thank God I have a condo here in Capitol Hill and it's paid for, so I'm okay. Well, what happens is that what I do is that after this interview, I'm going to basically, before this interview, I play the trailer and I basically tell people what date and time it plays. So
yeah, great. Well, I hope that I was able to.
Well, thank you very much for the
questions.
interview. I really appreciate it. Good luck. Hopefully, I'm going to promote your film so everyone's going to see it because I think it is one of the best documentaries at the Seattle Asian American Film Festival. It is about discrimination. It's about immigrants that are discriminated against. I think it's an amazing topic, obviously very relevant in terms of what's happening in society today. So really thank you, Christina.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak about the film. And I guess one thing I should let people know is besides the film, which I hope they will definitely come and watch, we also have a website called withwingsandroots.org, which all those other interviews I did to find the protagonist for the film, we put out parts of those interviews. So there's more than 50 people who are on that website where you can hear other people's stories and also.
Wait, can you repeat the website again?
Yeah, it's withwingsandroots.org.
Wait, can you pronounce it again?
Yep. withwingsandroots.org.
With wings?
And roots.org.
Okay.
Or they can, they can also go to our film website, fromherefilm.com, and they'll get a link to that website. But if people are interested in the topics, they can dig in deeper.
I will include that in the in part of my podcasts. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Ernie.
Okay. Thank you, Christina. Really like meeting you. Okay. Virtually. We're all meeting people virtually. Take care.
Yeah. You too. Bye.
Bye. And finally, since I'm gay, I definitely want to include a LGBTQ film. There's a number of LGBTQ films, I think mostly shorts, that are in the Seattle Asian Film Festival. Here is one, Dancing My Own, and celebrating queer Asian identity. Alexandra Cuerdo is the film producer and director.
My heart beating,
tears. I felt like I was living a lie.
Out of here.
Insanely nerve-wracking.
My sexuality. Oh my god.
Lots of confusion.
Always thought I had to give up.
Sometimes I do think growing up queer and Asian, I kind of got hit with a double whammy.
When they see bubble tea, a space where Asians rule but everyone's welcome, I think people are yes, bitch, finally.
I always say bubble tea is a space of empowerment and healing, all about celebration and celebration of being Asian, queer, and creative. We hope that for the future, we won't need something like bubble tea. Maybe it'll just be every space, and we'll be seen the way we want to be seen.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm here with Alexandra Cuerdo, and she is the executive producer and director for a really cool LGBT film called Dancing on My Own. So, Ali, how did you get the idea for the film?
First off, thanks so much for having me, Ernie. I really love the Seattle Asian American Film Festival. It's been so supportive of my work over the years, particularly my first film, Hula Main Dish. And
yes, I want to ask you about that later.
yeah, we're so excited to be coming back with this little love project. So Dancing on My Own was, gosh, it started, I think, really at a dance party. That's how the film started. There's this amazing community in New York City called Bubble Tea, and it is a queer, radical Asian dance party that has become the, I think, biggest Asian dance party in New York. And so that has been honestly my, I would say, my second family coming to New York. And so I was pulled in by a friend who is one of the founders of the party, who's also Filipino, a wonderful DJ by the name of Tito Vida, who's actually a Pacific Northwest native.
Oh, wow.
Olympia. Yeah.
Just down the road.
Yeah, exactly. Just down the road. And so he was the one who really introduced me to this awesome group of people, artists, activists, performers, filmmakers, you name it. It's really such a thriving creative community. And so with these people, I started to really find my own, and my own voice and my own family, and sort of my place in the world in New York. And so that, I'd wanted to do a film about bubble tea for a long time. And I was in the process of applying to a few artist grants. And the first one I applied to actually was a grant by the name of the Visco Voices Grant, which is given to 5 artists from underrepresented communities across America. And it was really cool. It was an unrestricted artist grant, so they let me just make something that I wanted, and really something that was personal to me. So Visco financed it, and we made this little film. And I got to tell you, it was so wild to make, Ernie, because we were filming live at this rave, 3-story rave. This was pre-COVID.
Wait, this party was 3 stories?
3 stories high.
Wow. What do they, Ali, do they have the same venue every time, or they pick a different venue?
No, different venues every time. And that's what keeps it fresh. The party has been, we've actually done something at the MoMA PS1, which is an offshoot of the Museum of Modern Art.
Oh, wow.
The party built a boba dome to dance in. It was just so cool. You really think like it's kind of a party that's like an intersection of all of these cool references, cultural references from, different parts of the Asian American experience growing up, from Linda Chendai being projected on, big screens behind us. We had a party that was all themed after Paris by Night.
Cool.
We had a every year there's a Lunar New Year party that's, I think, one of the most fun. And it's really cool to see this community celebrate being Asian and also being LGBT at the same time. They're not in conflict with each other. And
exactly.
that was the beginning.
Well, you described that it's such a cool community because of all the creative people there. So I can imagine how every time you guys have your bubble tea, how much cool things they set up, right? All kinds of cool things. And every venue's different. And then every every theme, right? It's different. Every time you go to a
Yes.
new one, it's a different theme, right?
Yes, yes. And all like again, keeping in mind who we are as Asian
Yeah.
Americans, you know, and really honoring our history and honoring our pop culture, honoring our heroes. I think that that is something I've been seeing in a lot of really amazing cinema today, and even in television. You know, I have to tell you a little offshoot. I'm a huge fan of the show Warrior, which is on HBO right
Okay.
now. I don't know if you've seen it, but
No, I gotta write that down. Warrior
oh my
HBO.
goodness, it's the
Okay.
coolest, based on the writings of Bruce Lee. I
Oh,
mean,
why?
it
I love
is,
Bruce Lee.
yeah, it is it's like the Asian Godfather I've always wanted to see. It's just a big crime story. Anyways, you know, I was watching that the other day and I was thinking to myself, you know, this is a show that does a lot of the things that I've always wanted to do as a director, which is make a show that centers Asian Americans and is unapologetic about who we are. And especially in light of, you know, all of the recent and
Oh,
honestly
yes.
ongoing hate crimes against Asian Americans. You know,
There's so many. I mean, it really breaks my heart, like especially um like in San Francisco and Oakland. I mean, they were attacking like elderly, you know, these
yes,
poor 87-year
awful,
old people. And they
awful.
actually in San Francisco, they actually attacked this 87-year-old Thai older gentleman, and they just basically pushed him to the ground and he died. You
I
know, because
know,
obviously he's you know, he's 87, right? He's very fragile.
horrible,
I know
horrible.
when I read that story, like I wanted to cry because you know it reminds me of your grandparents, right? It's like
Yes,
who the hell would do that, you know, to an old person?
yes,
It's like,
yes, and
oh, I can't believe these people. I mean, pick on me, a younger person, right? Don't pick on an 80-year-old
right,
person.
right,
Shit, you know, it
right,
makes me really.
right.
I want to cry and get mad at the same time.
Yes, yes. I feel the same way. And I think our whole community right now is hurting because we're realizing that, you know, this isn't going to stop. You
No,
know,
no.
there's been a change in the presidency, you know,
Thank God.
for the better, and yet, right? And so I think that showing stories on screen, and again, this is my personal,
Yeah.
you know, my personal mission as a filmmaker, showing stories on screen that humanize us, that, you know, are unapologetic and proud of who we are.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do all day every day. And so that's what Dancing on My Own was all about. You know, that's why I brought in my own family, you know,
Yeah.
in the film. I mean, not to spoil it for anybody, but my mom's in it. And
Hey,
I'm in it.
how long was it filming?
Oh man, so we filmed that whole scene with my mom, everything actually in LA on one day, and
One
and
day?
yeah, and it just, so we actually split it between LA and New York. So in
Yeah.
New York, we filmed all the rave scenes, everything you see for bubble tea, including all of the portraits on one day. And
Wow.
then in LA, we did all of the driving scenes and sort of the fiction part of the film, because for people who haven't seen it, it's kind of a hybrid. It's a documentary and it's a narrative, you know, because to me, it felt like the most honest way to portray the full story. You know, so the film begins with a fictionalization of my own coming out story. I cast an actor to play me, an awesome actor by the name of Joy Regulano, and an equally amazing actor to play my mom, who's a great actor by the name of Princess Punsalan. And
Wow.
she actually just starred as a mom in a film called Yellow Rose, which has also been making the festival circuit and actually just was released. It was the first Filipino American film to be released by a major studio. So we're
Wow.
so proud of it, so proud of it. You know, that one came out through Sony. So, you know, again, like I'm seeing all of these amazing films come out, and I understand now that this is a wave. You know, this isn't just one film, you know, this is a wave of incredible Asian American creatives. And so
Well,
I'm
look at last night, the Golden Globes of the Korean
I
American film.
know.
What is it called now?
Minari won for best foreign language film. In my opinion, I think it should have been nominated for best picture, but
yes. And in fact, they had the actor on Good Morning America this morning, and they asked him that. Isn't that weird? I mean, because basically they should have been a best picture. It shouldn't have been foreign language film, right? Because it's kind of, it was American.
It's an American film. It's an American
Korean
film.
Americans, it's like.
Yep.
Well, I love it though. I mean, it's great that, they won an award. And it's a
Chloe
great
Zhao.
film.
I don't know if you heard, we have the first, I'm just so excited. I feel like all these people I'm bragging about.
Asian, she's an Asian American, right, director, right? Did she win Best Director, right?
Yes, the first Asian woman to win Best Director at the Golden Globes.
That's amazing.
I have been waiting my whole life to see that. How cool for our community, and how cool for young Asian girls everywhere. So again, like, I'm just a big fan. I'm a big fan of all these creatives, and Dancing on My Own, I hope can contribute to the narrative of what the Asian American experience is like, because I personally haven't seen a lot about the queer Asian American experience,
Not a lot. I mean, every year, which is kind of cool because I'm gay. And so every year since I've been involved in the film festival, we definitely have sometimes if there's a feature, then we'll pick the LGBT feature and we'll have a LGBT night.
Oh, cool.
Mainly, I would say in the last 5 years, we've been getting a lot more shorts, than features, right? Because I think a lot of people are, it's easier to make a short, right, than a full feature-length film.
Features are expensive.
Yes. And so we've had, I would say the last 5 years, we've had an LGBTQ shorts, shorts package. We'll pick like 8 to 10, and then, we'll go ahead and have one night where we have LGBTQ. The Asian American experience, which is
awesome. It's needed, it's needed because as and I also identify as queer. We're out here. We're out here. And also I think that, especially from what I've seen in New York, queer Asian Americans are behind some of, the most momentous works of art, whether it's in fashion, whether it's in, film, whether it's in photography. We've been here for years.
That's right.
It's just a matter of putting us on screen. And again, like that was why it was so fun to make this film, because I was able to talk to all these great creatives that I admire as well and say, hey, you're Bowen Yang, first, East Asian on Saturday Night Live. And he's,
he's funny. He's hilarious.
Yeah. And he comes to Bubble Tea, he was a part of the film too.
Cool.
And yeah, I'm not sure if you saw that little cameo, but he was in full drag.
Was he really?
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. Our film festival starts this Thursday and you will love it. We have this Saturday, a local Asian American filmmaker, Bao Tran, has this movie it's supposed to be kind of a funny movie. It's called The Paper Tigers.
Awesome.
It's about
I'm so
Kung
excited.
Fu. It's filmed in Seattle about Kung Fu, obviously influenced from Bruce Lee. And it's kind of an action / comedy. And guess what? We're going to have it at a drive-in theater.
Wow, that's great. That's
so what I'm going to do, I'm invited some friends. They basically, it's a big parking lot in Burien, near the airport, and they have the setup. And I got my ticket before they sold out, which is amazing.
So
cool. I'm going to have some friends, and we're going to bring the vodka and the club soda, and we're going to order Chinese American food from a classic, suburban, Chinese American restaurant, that has all that American Chinese food like egg foo young and sub gum.
Oh my gosh. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it, Ernie. What a cool night. And that's, that's the other part of it too that I love is like when we have a film like that at the movies, it just becomes an event, We can make it an event.
It's gonna be fun because Allie, it's probably been like 30 years since I've been to a drive-in theater.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean,
well, because of COVID, it actually
yeah.
has picked up in the last year.
Yep.
Now, did you
Yep.
say you filmed during COVID in the last year?
Oh, I have been filming during COVID, but this film in particular was filmed pre-COVID.
Oh, okay.
That's why you can,
Okay.
when you see it, you'll see all the crowds we miss.
Okay. Yep. You're right.
Thousands of people in a sweaty nightclub.
Yeah, you're right. You can't do social distancing at the bubble tea dance.
Yeah, but it's actually neat. I'm working on a TV series also set in this community, and so we're filming a short film
Wow.
next month. Actually, yeah, the TV series is called "All I Want Is Everything," and the fun title, and it's all about an Asian girl, specifically a Korean girl who kind of finds her way into this underground rave scene.
Wow.
And gets into college and sells drugs to pay for it. So yeah, it's a bit of a crazy crime coming of age story.
Yeah.
It's very Alice in Wonderland. It's very Breaking Bad, but it's kind of like a fun anti-hero story that really again like gets to showcase some of my favorite parts
Cool.
of nightlife.
So here's a good question for you. Obviously, I know this since last year.
Mm-hmm.
There's no live film festivals going on, so you kind of miss that going physically to see people because you want to see people's reaction to your film and network with the audience, network
There's
with
nothing
other
like
filmmakers.
sitting in a theater too.
No.
That.
So how has the virtual film festival circuit been going for you?
It's been pretty okay actually. I think that we premiered the film last year in August at the Bentonville Film Festival. They were so great about it. They really pushed on behalf of their press and their team, and I mean we were so amazed. We got an article in Variety.
What?
Because
wow.
Very
there were cool.
Because there's so many again, like I said, it's a wave. There were so many Asian American films at Bentonville that Variety took notice, and I was interviewed as part of the article, and again I for me it's all about if a door is open for me, I want to walk through that door and bring my community in with me. That's how it works. I think there's no glory in being the only one.
Yeah. Did you do San Francisco? They have that big called Frameline, I think it's called.
Oh, we didn't do Frameline, but
okay.
We did. We've done a few now. We did Bentonville. We did.
How about LA?
Fest.
How about LA?
Yeah, we did LA Asian Pacific Film Festival.
Cool.
It's been great. Honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know because we've been doing quite a few screenings back to back. But one of the other ones that was really fun was New Fest in New York. That was a really cool community.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah, that was really fun. We did a screening for a bunch of like companies actually in New York, Vox, Squarespace, and a few others.
Wow.
It's really neat how even short films have become a way for Asian employee resource groups to share, what being Asian means at Squarespace, what
That's
being
cool.
Asian means at Vox, and I think it's so cool because it's like these films that to me feel so personal. I never know when I'm making a film if anyone will relate to it. And for this one, it was really, really beautiful to see people sharing it with their families, people sharing it with their parents and also their younger brothers and sisters, many of who are afraid to come out or who don't have necessarily that support in their own families. And that was really the goal for me when making this film, is like, I wanted to show people, here's another way to live.
Right.
Here's a way in which the coming out story doesn't need to be a sad story. you know. And for me personally, that's what it was, you know. It initially, when I came out when I was 15, 16, I was driving a car. I was learning to drive, and I almost crashed the car because I was arguing with my mom. I mean,
Oh
that's a real
no.
story.
Oh no.
That's a real story. And you know, and in many years later, you know, that was when I was able to kind of heal my relationship with my mom by actually making this film. Like, I
Cool.
showed her
I'm
the
glad. I'm looking forward to seeing her in it.
yeah, yeah.
It's gonna
Oh,
be
she's
fun.
great. She's great. She's hilarious because it's just her being a mom.
Yeah, I mean,
And
you're
yeah.
right. I mean, when I didn't come out. I'm old. I'm 61, so I'm an old guy. You're like, but
Well, Asian
I,
don't raise it. I can't tell, Ernie.
but I didn't. But Allie, I was married to a
Yeah,
woman for 7 years.
yeah.
I didn't come out until I was 37. Because
Gosh.
it's part of the, back
Yeah.
then, I was born in Seattle, but still, it
Mm-hmm.
was hard to come
Mm-hmm.
out back then.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard, especially when you had Asian parents. You have to do what the
Oh my
Asian parents wanted you to
gosh.
do. Like,
Yeah.
what? And they kept on asking me in high school, like I wouldn't date because I knew I was gay.
Right.
I didn't
Right.
date, and then
Right.
I forced
Right.
myself to date a few times.
Right. Oh
It
my
wasn't
gosh.
working. I never had, I never had sex in high school because
I
I knew I was gay, and
yeah, yeah,
I went on these fake
yeah.
dates with these Asian girls, because
Right, right,
my parents
right,
they go, how come you're not dating?
right, right. And you want
And
to make your parents happy.
my
Yeah.
friends would go, why are you dating? I go, what's wrong with you?
Oh no.
What's wrong?
Nothing's wrong with
I
you.
know nothing's wrong. I'm
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And
So
also, like, honestly, like, and thanks for sharing that. I think that's a facet of the story too that people don't know and people don't
yeah,
talk about, because it's something that I think in the past was treated with a sense of shame or
yep.
regret.
Oh
And
yeah.
now I feel like we can say, hey, like, more and more I'm seeing people around me just growing up, especially the younger
Yeah.
generation,
Yeah.
growing up and being proud from the
Yeah.
get-go. And that gives me hope,
Yeah.
because
It's it's not perfect still, obviously, because I'm sure
Mhm.
there's Asian family situations where
Yes.
it's still hard to come out, but it's way better
Yes.
than it was. Way better than it
Yes,
was
way
before.
better. And again, like, it's about also being celebrated for who you
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
like, and being accepted for who you are. It's at the end of the day, it's a really positive film. It's a,
I'm looking
it's a
forward to it.
positive story. Yeah.
So, for the film, Allie, what's your ultimate goal? Because I've asked the 4 films that I interviewed. So,
Oh, sure.
do you want it to be picked up by Netflix, Hulu, Prime, HBO
You
Max?
know, it's interesting because it's a short film, right? So it's
Yeah.
a little bit of a different journey.
Yeah.
With Ulam, we were so excited to end up on Hulu and, becoming the second most watched film after Parasite for Asian Pacific Heritage Month. That was like a huge milestone for
Wow.
us. Yeah, we were so shocked. This is like the little Filipino documentary that could.
I mean,
You know?
is it still on Hulu?
Amazing. Yes, it just got renewed for
Oh,
another
I'm gonna watch
time.
it
Oh,
because you
please
know
do.
what? I am a huge fan of food shows.
Oh, me too.
Like,
Me
my
too.
favorite, unfortunately, he passed away, and it was sad because Anthony Bourdain, he had like the
Oh,
best job in the
yeah.
world, right?
Yeah.
He had the
Yep.
best job in
Yep.
the world. You
Yep.
go
Yep.
around the
Yep.
world and you have these local foodies that took you around to all these food places. But I told people that I said, just goes to show you, depression is a really, really bad,
Yeah.
look,
Mental health
this
is.
guy had the best job in the world, but he was
Mhm.
depressed.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it just goes to show you this guy, he should have been the happiest guy in the world with the
Right.
best job in the world. So
Yeah.
that really shows you about mental illness, and we need to, treat mental illness,
Yeah, mental
seriously.
health is so important, and Tony Bourdain really opened the door for so many chefs and cuisines to be
Yeah,
seen
yeah, yeah,
around the world as equal, as
yeah,
valid, and as worthy. So we
yeah.
owe a lot to Tony Bourdain.
I love the one scene. One of my favorite scenes is when he is sitting you know, have you ever been to Vietnam? Even Filipinos, the same thing. You go to these hole in the wall places and they have these little plastic stools,
Yeah.
you know. And if you're a big American, you look like
Yeah.
you're gonna break the damn
Yeah.
chair, you know. Well, they were in Hanoi, and that's when Obama happened to be doing a state visit to Hanoi, and they were in this little hole in the wall place.
Yeah.
And they sat at this little table on these little two plastic stools, drinking beer and having some great Vietnamese food. I mean, that was one of my
So
favorite.
cool.
Yeah,
So
that's
cool.
cool. And also, there's
And
a woman on Hulu. She's East Indian American. Oh, what's her name?
oh, Padma Lakshmi?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, we love her show.
I love her.
Yes.
I love her
So
show.
great. So great. And again, like I'm just a fan, you know, I love all these creators. And, you know, for me, it's like, how cool is it? You know, Ulam Main Dish was the first. It was the first Filipino film, you know.
Did you so you can tell me so I can compare and other people too. Was
Sure.
it all filmed in America or did you go to the Philippines?
We did have a little bit in the Philippines, but it was primarily focused on the new wave of Filipino American chefs and restaurateurs in New York and Los Angeles. So it was really cool. We were actually able to capture some of the first, like early days of some of these groundbreaking restaurants that, you know, really changed the conversation. And I'll tell you a little tiny story about Ulam. It was a real labor of love, you know. I have to say, when we first pitched it, nobody wanted to take it.
Really?
Nobody believed in it. This was before it was cool to have films of color on your slate. You know, it very much was it was quote unquote a risk for so many people, and so we made it independently. We made it with, you know, private financing, friends and family, small grants, and this little film that took 5 years to make.
Wow.
I know the thing exactly, because we kept running out of money. And the thing that pushed it over was I uploaded a trailer that I had cut in my living room. We didn't even have the money for color correction, Ernie. I uploaded this uncolor corrected trailer to Facebook. And I was like, I just have to show people what we've been working on for the last 3 years.
Oh, yeah. Because then, you
because
give them a teaser, like, hey, look at this. Look at this content.
Exactly. So,
and like you said, Filipino American food was kind of like during that time, right? It was like the popular Asian food, right?
Well, it was just at the precipice of blowing up, because this was back in 2016.
Oh,
you
okay.
know? So it was actually right before all the big articles came out. So back in 2016, we uploaded a trailer of what we were working on, and it went viral. That's what happened. It was the power of the internet and the power of Filipino community, and it ended up getting picked up by Eater. And I got a call on my phone from the LA Times saying, hey, we want to premiere your film. And I was like, this is crazy. Jonathan Gold of the LA Times did our first Q&A.
Wow.
How cool is that? The #1
I did see that. I did see that on your website. I got to read the article. I'm going to read the article.
Yeah, it was wild. And that was when I realized, I was like, okay, this is no longer just a trend. This isn't a flash in the pan. You know, LA Times paid for our entire first screening. You know, they rented out Grand Central Market in Los Angeles, did Filipino food pop-ups. I mean, it was like a dream come true. You know, the day of our first screening, we had a line around the block. 800 people bought tickets.
What? 800?
For a Filipino food documentary. And this is what I mean about the power of community. People want to see these films. People do, whether it's at a drive-in, whether it's at a small theater, whether it's on Netflix. I really think that this is our time. You know, last night, Chloe Zhao was the first Asian American director, you know, Asian female director to win, you know.
That was amazing.
I mean,
that was really cool.
After Yentl, you know, after Barbara Streisand, Chloe's the second one. I just feel like it's our time, and you know, I'm really excited.
I didn't realize it. That was the last time a woman won Best Director.
The last time a woman won.
That's kind of shocking, because that was a long time ago. That was like 40 years ago. You know, 30 years ago.
Isn't it? That's why.
That's shocking.
It's about
that's
time.
Kind of shocking that it took Brian Streisand and Yentl. That's like 30 years. something like
Yep. It's about time. It's about time.
Yeah,
So,
I'm gonna.
you know,
I just printed out on my. I love all recipe. I love to cook, and so I just got a recipe for
Cool.
some Filipino grandmother's recipe for a lumpia and pancit. So I'm gonna make
yes, I love it. I love it.
I'm gonna
And
make it.
actually, I love that. If you want some more recipes, I wrote a book.
Oh, you did?
I've been so busy. My good friend Alvin Kailon of Egg Slut, he's, you know, an amazing Filipino chef. He's also in Ulam. Him and I wrote a book together, and it got published last year. It was called Amboy: Recipes from the Filipino American Dream.
What is it? What is it called again?
Amboy, Amboy,
Oh,
which
okay.
is shorthand for American boy. That's
Okay.
what we're always called when we go back to the Philippines,
Got it.
Amboy or Am Girl. And yeah, we were so honored. Amazon named it one of their top 20 books of the year.
What?
Just last year. Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
cool. So
Amazon
cool.
sells a gazillion books.
I know, right? So
Wow.
we're so stoked about it. And, you know, again, like for me, you know, whether it's in book form, documentary form, or now I'm pushing into the new realm of narrative fiction and TV, you know, it's always been the same goal, you know, is put us on screen, humanize us, represent us, you know, and introduce people, specifically not from our community, introduce people to our stories, you know, and show them that, you know, we're just like them, except maybe a little cooler, maybe a little cooler.
We're a little cooler. So guess what? I would love to meet you in person because I'm actually coming to New York in July.
Oh, how cool. Please
July
do. Please hit me up.
1st to the 8th, and I'll put a calendar reminder like a couple weeks out. I'll ping you. And wouldn't it be great if there'd be a bubble tea the week that I'm there?
Oh my goodness. Let's dream it.
I want to have, because guess what? I think, because, you know, they just had the Johnson Johnson vaccine, right? That's the third one. And then within another 2 weeks, it's going to be AstraZeneca, which means there's 4 vaccines. And all the medical professionals, all the public health people said that's just going to accelerate the whole process. And they think that by May and June, everyone in the US that wants a vaccine will have it. So guess what? So I did this trip just blinded. Okay. I just picked it. I go, okay. I'm going to guess that by July, everything's gonna be okay. And so I just booked my airfare. I had a really good hotel deal. And you know what I'm really hoping for? And I heard that the governor's allowing it. They're slowly opening up Broadway again, I hear.
Yes. I also heard that cinemas are going to open up at very low capacity.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're gonna do social distancing, you know, but they're gonna open because, you know, Broadway has been closed since last March, you know. I was supposed to go last year. You'll love this story. I was supposed to go last May. You're right in the middle of pandemic, right? So everything I had to cancel everything. But I had tickets to Hamilton.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I had tickets to the musical Temptations. And I had a movie, had tickets to Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh my goodness.
I was so mad. I wanted to see those.
It'll all come back. I really think it'll all come back. Where, you know, like you said, we're looking at increased vaccines for America. We're you know, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I think, you know, there's a lot of hope and positivity that also, after being cooped up for so long now, you know, once we're all vaccinated as a population, everybody's going to want to go out.
Oh my God, everyone's going to go out. Maybe they'll have a bubble tea dance every week.
I hope. If I have any say in it, you know, you know, that's
I'm keeping my fingers crossed. A bubble tea dance, July 1st to the 8th.
Fingers and toes.
Okay, Allie, I really want to thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to seeing your cool documentary, Dancing on My Own, at the Seattle Asian American Film Festival.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Ernie. This was such a fun conversation.
Thank you so much. So I hope you enjoyed the interviews with these 4 film producers. And I wanted to highlight these 4 films in the upcoming Seattle Asian American Film Festival, March 4th to 14th. It is all online, so go to seattleaaff.org to purchase your virtual tickets. Take care.